In this video, I would like to share some of the things which I call business lessons that I've had to learn in my life and that I'm probably still learning every day. The first of these is the saying that life is not fair, but it is still good. Now, I don't know about you, but I want life to be fair because I want good things to happen to good people and bad things only to bad people. But we all know that that is not how life works. And often when we find ourselves in an organization, we can feel that life is very unfair. Sometimes people get promoted around us that we may not think needs to be promoted or deserves to be promoted. Sometimes we have to work for a boss that we don't respect, don't even like, and so we can be very frustrated. But I think the lesson here is that we need to again look at ourselves and ask ourselves, have I promoted myself well enough? If you find yourself in any way frustrated at what is happening with your career, the onus is on us. We often believe that if we just work very, very hard, hopefully somebody will see us. But that might not be the case. We need to learn that in order to make life more fair, we need to be more assertive and put ourselves out there more. The second lesson is based on a quote by Napoleon Bonaparte, who said that I would rather have a general that makes bad decisions than a general that makes no decisions. Now again, if you've ever worked for somebody that can't make a decision, you will understand how utterly frustrating that can be. So as business leaders, we need to be decisive. We need to make the call. The more decisive we are, the more we enable the people who work with us to be able to take the right kind of actions and to be fast and fit and flexible in times of change. And we can practice this a bit more even in our personal lives. We tend to be too nice when somebody asks us something. So somebody says, would you like something to drink? And we say, yes, anything. Now, that doesn't really help. We don't enable the other person, therefore, to help us. Say that you want tea with milk and 1 sugar, because that enables, that helps us to take action. In his wonderful book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey teaches us about the 2 circles in our life. He talks about a circle of concern and a circle of influence. Now, he explains that the circle of concern that we find in our lives contains all the things that we worry ourselves about, but can't actually take any action on or make it any better. He talks about our circle of influence containing the things that we care about and can do something about. So as an example, if we watch Carte Blanche on a Sunday night, often all they seem to do is to throw things into our circle of concern for a whole hour long. So we start worrying about all the things that are happening out there in the world that we can't really do anything about. And whilst it's good to be informed about what happens in the world, we can't worry about all of it. So if we take this back into our own businesses, we need to understand which areas in our business is within our influence and control and which are not. And so often we can find situations in a business where one team looks at another and starts complaining that the other team gets Friday afternoons off and they don't. And so you can create a lot of internal conflict in a business simply because people are not minding their own business. The lesson about taking ourselves so seriously really says don't take yourself or your job so seriously because no one else does. And I say this with great respect for what we might all do to earn a living. But we often get too serious about things in a business when mistakes are happened. So in fact, we act as if somebody has just died. And most of the time, when we make a mistake in our business, nobody has died. What we then also do is we go into full criminal mind CSI mindset and we start finding the murderer. So everybody's looking around about who to blame for the mistake. When in actual fact, we should be focusing on what went wrong and how we can prevent it from going wrong the next time. I think we always need to remember that failure is inevitable. Mistakes will happen. But as long as we are right more times than we are wrong, we will be fine in terms of our businesses. The next lesson has to do with people's attitude, and I call it the work is not a jail sentence business lesson. And you know how some people walk into our businesses on a Monday morning as if they were sentenced to be there by a judge, and you can see this on their faces. And I always want to remind people that everything in life is a choice, and that where we work, who we give our energy and our talents and our skills to, is in fact a choice that we make. Now, I understand, especially with the current climate in our country, that often jobs are scarce to come by and that we need to keep the ones that we have. But then again, the challenge remains with us, which says if we can no longer change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. And this was said by the wonderful Viktor Frankl in his book, Man's Search for Meaning. And again, I reiterate, the challenge is ours, the choice is ours, and we need to live and work as if we made choices based on hope and not based on fear. Let's talk about discipline in our business. Now, great businesses run on great discipline, but sometimes we are scared to enforce the rules and procedures in our business. I think we need to re-look the procedures and make sure that they still work for us. But if they do, we need to enforce them. We often correlate business with sport, and in this instance, I think the picture works really well. If you think about any sport, if you think about the field that it gets played on, there are lines drawn on that field which says, step over this line and the whistle will blow. But the lines are wide enough apart that within those game-changing lines, people can do creative things. They can bring of themselves to the game. But business should be enforced. And so we need to stop at the red light every time, not just when we feel like it. So discipline needs to be enforced, and it needs to be enforced continuously and consistently. Another part of discipline that we battle with is this whole issue of time management. We sometimes think that if we can just get people to work all at the same time, that then work will take place. The problem with this is that people can arrive at our businesses without doing anything. They start behaving as if they're Tiger Woods or Beyonce and think that they get paid appearance fees. So they appear in our businesses for which we pay them, but they don't actually do anything. And so time management is about being there when the game starts and giving of your best, and not necessarily the amount of time you spend at work. This lesson is about change, and it says however good or bad a situation is, it will inevitably change. But what I find we do in our businesses is that when things are going bad, we tend to focus a lot on it. So we have a lot of meetings, there's a lot of emails flying around, and a lot of focus is placed on the bad times. But inevitably and thankfully, good times also come around. But then we tend to ignore it, we tend to cruise through it. And so it can feel, when we look back on a year, as if all we've had are crises and bad times. I think we need to focus also and equally on the good times. We need to celebrate when things are going well. And we don't always have to wait until something has been completed in order for us to celebrate. I think we can do celebrations all the time, even if it is just to say, look how far we've come. It was Roy Smith who said, the successful man is the one who finds out what's the matter with his business before his competitors do. And I think if we don't dream enough about our businesses, if we don't place enough focus on thinking time, if we don't continuously look for the improvements that we need to make along the way, then we may wake up one day and find that our competitors have outwitted us. So the lesson in this is that we need to spend time in our business, that we need to dream about the possibilities, and that every minute we spend thinking, dreaming, planning, talking, engaging with our team is not time that we waste, but that every minute we do that places us one step ahead of our competitors.